So, do you have any questions for me? Okay, let me invite you to go on into the mattress shop. You're going to see some more of the beautiful work.
Thank you, Laura. What's on it, everybody? So as you come in here, make sure you're looking up at the ceiling. This is my favorite ceiling in the institution. This is the only brick vaulted ceiling that survived that 1954 riot fire. All of the other ones crumbled down. Luckily, we still have this ceiling. It wasn't vaulted to look pretty, it was vaulted to help hold up the weight of everything upstairs. So for example, the the Canada Post contract, they have industrial sewing machines up there, so this was just to help keep the weight up. Again, done by the inmates themselves under the tutelage of master stonemasons. So I think it's kind of cool.
It is very cool.
So when KP first opened its shopdom in the 1840s, they made things out here such as brooms and twine and shoes and boots. Obviously, they were not making the same things in 2009. At that point, they were making upholstery for office furniture. So times changed. Because of that, the majority of the shops in here have had a few different jobs at their time. I know 3 uses this exact shop has had. In the late 1800s, there was a foundry here, and they actually had a contract with the Canadian Lock Company. Ironically enough, they had the inmates in here learning how to make locks and keys. Yeah. It also was a metal shop for a long period of time in the 1900s. Here they would do any metalworking institution needed, as well as government contracts. The most well-known one is the fact that if anybody here has ever been to Parliament in Ottawa, in the Parliamentary Library, the wrought iron banisters there were made here at Kingston Penitentiary. And the last job I had was mattress shops. They would get old mattresses in here, they would recycle them, and they would use those parts to make new mattresses for other institutions. Institutions tend to make things for other institutions quite frequently. Does anybody have any questions about anything in the shop now? Alrighty.
How would an inmate get a job in the mattress shop? Will they get paid for their time here?
Yes, it was. So if you had a job, the highest paid inmate made $6.90 a day, and that would be somebody who had finished their licensing to be a plumber, electrician, things like that, or if you were in the school, you got paid very highly to go to school, get your grade 12 to try to incentivize it. So whenever you came into the institution, obviously you want to try to get a job. It works just like it does in the outside society. Job postings will be posted on a board in the main dome. Typically when you came into the institution, you would end up in the jobs nobody else wanted. So that was typically stuff like lawn maintenance in the kitchen. However, once a job posting opened up in the mattress shop, for example, you were able to apply, you did an interview, and then if they thought it was a good fit, you would end up there. So it works similarly as it does to outside jobs, and you would be paid. The highest paid inmates made $6.90 a day. Typical, most inmates made around $4 a day.
A day.
The money that they earned, they could buy what? Or they could buy the carton of cigarettes?
Yes. So the money they earned went into a few different accounts. Whenever you got it, you did, number one, inmates did not carry cash, it was all electronic. And two is it went into a few different accounts. You had your checking account and your savings account. Half your paycheck would go into each. So for example, you're making $4 a day, $2 would go into each. That saving account is for your release. So for example, you're here for 5 years. Hopefully you can get a decent chunk of cash in there. And then whenever you're released, you're not being thrown out with nothing behind you. And then your spending account you could use on things in the canteen. So for example, you have chips, chocolate bars, things of that nature. If you wanted to buy a TV, obviously you're going to need to save up in that account for a little while. Your money also, a portion of it was taken away for the cable bill. Most inmates had TVs, everybody paid into the cable bill. And also the inmate welfare fund. So the inmate welfare fund was for things such as if the rec yard equipment, all the soccer balls are busted up. Well, the inmate welfare fund is going to buy the new soccer balls. One of the PFEs needs something. Well, the inmate welfare fund is going to do that. So you also can pay into that. So you paid into a few different things. So by the time you get your leftover chunk of money, it might be $1 or $2, then you would use that in the canteen.
Could I contribute to, say, my husband's account?
Yes, if it was a family member. Family members were allowed to send in $500, I believe, for a year for the inmates. But a chunk of that still will go into savings, and then the other chunk you'd be able to use in spendings. Yeah. So you couldn't get your family to send you $500 to your spending account. Part of that would still be, it would automatically be divvied up. However, you could send, I think it was family members could send together about $500 a year was the count.
Now what about toiletries? Is it supplied by?
No, you had to buy your own toiletries. That's why inmates who weren't able to work still made $1 a day. Because so if you were ill, for example, you couldn't go to work, you still had to buy your own toothpaste, your own shampoo, your own laundry detergent. So you had to buy your own toiletries.
And how many days a week did you have to work?
5 and 7. They typically, when the shop don't was open Monday to Friday. Obviously, the inmates who work in the kitchen and stuff like that are going to be on a little bit of different shifting because everybody still needs to eat on the weekend. So they might have their days off, you know, in the middle of the week, something like that. But it was Monday to Friday for everybody working out here at the shop
And
though.
was it 8 hours?
Yes.
So they do their own laundry? Yeah.
So for a while, there was the inmate laundry for the majority of the history. So basically, your bedding and your work uniform would go down there. Your work uniform, by the way, inmates here and in Canada don't wear jumpsuits. That's an American thing. So your work uniform was blue jeans and a polo shirt. So that would get washed in the inmate laundry. However, there was a washer and a dryer on each range because inmates had to do their own personal laundry. So if you had purchased, you know, sweatpants and a sweatshirt, things like that to wear on your own working hours, you were responsible for washing that. Absolutely. Alrighty. We'll head out to the rec yard then.
Must have been cold here in the winter.
Oh, I can imagine. It's right off the
lake, yeah.
Chilly. Well, like I said, it was even cold here in like May, so I can't imagine what it was in February. Yeah. So welcome to the rec yard, everybody. One of the first things I always like to preface this with is the yard used to look a lot different than this. Everything was actually taken out last year, including the grass, because the police equestrian games wanted to use the space. So whenever the institution was up and running, we're going to have to use our imagination. There was grass here, there was a baseball diamond over in this area, 4 basketball courts along the back, a track that ran around the inside of the fence, there was a weight pit, soccer nets, things of that nature. Fair bit out here. Inmates were able to come out to the yard either at night after work or on the weekends. However, the stipulation being they had to be inside in their cells before it got dark. The officers would move you inside simply because this is a residential area and they wouldn't be able to have the inmates out here at night. The inmates also didn't come through the fence like we just did. They took out those sections of fencing so we could get through easier. They would have come through those turnstiles over there and there would have been an officer whose job was to count every inmate coming in, every inmate going out. Now this is a good spot to talk about my personal favorite escape story. It is also the last escape that happened at Kingston Penitentiary. It happened in 1999 and it is Ty Khan's story. He escaped over the wall, right over here, this exact wall. The only difference being the razor wire was put in after his escape. So, Ty Khan, he was a young man, originally came to prison on armed burglary charges and was given about a 6-year sentence. However, every institution they put him in, he tried to escape. So by the time he had gotten to KP, he had racked up a 47-year, 4-month sentence.
Oh, wow.
I don't blame him, honestly, for deciding he was just going to escape KP too. So what he did was, when he got here, he started to build a dummy, and that dummy he placed in the cell as night of his escape. Now he took everything a step further and actually laid a certain way in his cell about 3 weeks leading up to his escape every night, with his leg hanging over the edge. So when he placed the dummy like that, it wouldn't look awkward, the guards wouldn't think anything was amiss. He also had his buddies on their way to Yard and Rec that night reach into his cell bars, turn his TV on and off, things of that nature to make his cell look lived in. He was actually hiding up in the canvas shop, which is right over here. He worked making those Canada Post mailbags. And he waited until everybody was out of the shop dome. After that, obviously, he punched out a bunch of night lights, laid a bunch of canvas mailbags on the floor to muffle the noise, took a step ladder that hadn't been bolted down properly, and a bunch of the shelves off all the shelving units, and tied them all together with the string from the mailbags to make a ladder. He also took the string from the mailbags, braided it all together, and got a bit of rebar he bent into a hook and made a grappling hook. And then he waited. Because at that point in May of 1999, this tower behind me was not being staffed after 11 p.m. due to budget cuts. Ty knew this and he was able to obviously use it as an advantage. There's nobody out here. So he waited a few hours past 11, took his ladder, took his grappling hook, climbed over, grappled down the other side, and was on his merry way. The next morning when the morning shift was coming into work, they see that grappling hook, they know somebody's missing. Once they found out it was Ty, they went and they searched his cell. They do that to, see if they can find any clues of any sort. And actually they did find a note on his calendar. He kind of left it, I think, to, poke fun at the guards. For the day after his escape, on his calendar, he had written "gone fishing." Where did Ty go? He went and he robbed a Canadian Tire in Trenton, Ontario, where he got a shotgun and some ammo, and then went and robbed a CIBC bank in Colborne. This is my personal favorite aspect of the story. That bank is the exact same bank he robbed to get himself into prison in the first place. And the teller was the same teller who was there the first time. I feel so bad for that person. You're finally getting over the fact that you were robbed, and then the same guy comes in again. Hey, it's me. So after that, Ty went to Toronto, where he was found 2 weeks later by the police in a basement apartment. Now, unfortunately, while Ty was in the midst of negotiating with the police, he was holding a few different things, sat down in a chair, and that stolen shotgun went off. And Ty, unfortunately, fatally shot himself. So that was the end of Ty Khan's life. However, I think you got to give it to him. He had a very good last escape for Kingston Penitentiary. Personally, that's why I think nobody else tried to escape after 1999. They're like, yeah, we can't touch that. We'll let him be the last one. So that was the last escape at Kingston Pen. With that, we're going to be heading into this open blue door over here and be heading into the RTC gym.
He probably was happy to end it.
I'll need a push.
Want me to turn you around and pull you in?
Well, push is probably better.
Okay.
I can do a wheelie over that.
Push.
Yeah,
Oh, push, sorry.
yeah. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Originally, not this gym, the gym is newer, but the building proper, it was built in the 1850s, and it was the East Shop Block. So it was part of the shops, it was part of KP, of course, and they made farm implements and shoes and boots here. Not the kind of shoes I would wear, I'm sure. Anyways, so it operated as that until the late 1800s, 1887 or something. They started, it started to change. It became the prison of isolation for the more difficult cases. Then in the mid-1900s, around 1950 something, it became the prison for the mentally disturbed. We don't use that term anymore, obviously, but it evolved into regional treatment center after that. And at some point later on, it became its own institution, so they have their own warden and administrative staff and all of that. When it was here, we did share some services like finance and stuff, but mainly it ran as its own institution. So there were 2 staff deaths in the regional treatment center building. In 1890, Mason David Cunningham was working on the ground floor, and a wheelbarrow full of bricks or something like that fell on him from the 3rd floor. It was an accident. It was deemed an accident. They always investigate these things. And then in 1961, guard William Wentworth was found. He was on midnight shift. He was found fatally stabbed to death. They never did find out who did that, although they had their suspicions. They were never able to convict anybody because the code of silence held fast amongst the inmates for that, and which I find is quite rare, really, because somebody usually always spills the beans. But on a brighter note, this mural was painted in 2003 by a group of students, and it was meant to sort of brighten up the spirits of the inmates when they came down here. So, does anybody have any questions about RTC?
Was the warden for RTC a local?
No, he didn't have to be.
Did the guards have training for that?
Pardon me?
Did the guards have training in that regard for